Right. So what we have discussed in the previous session about uh, creating like dashboards, all that stuff, right? So creating of dashboard is what we have discussed. And wherein now we are going to discuss about how to create a roadmap first. Because as a role of a product owner, whoever is relating to the project development, so those people have to create some roadmaps and all. So wherein that roadmaps were already created for this integrated Culient healthcare integrated practice management system, right? So for the practice management system, we have created this one, which was already there here, right? So yeah, so health grade integrated practice management system, wherein we have created different epics. As far as the case study itself, what is that we have taken? It starts from denial management, claims management, integration, right? So for claims scrubber, all that we have created these epics, right? So claims scrubber, all that we have created. Now, what we need to do is we have to write down the user stories here. Writing user stories is essentially important for any epic because, for example, if this is an epic we have created, we need to write down the user stories, which we call it as create child issue. By clicking on it, you need to write down the user stories here. Now, if you want to write a user story and all, there is a template which normally we follow, which I am going to explain you now. Okay. So I am explaining you how to write user stories first. Okay. So usually when you want to write a user story template are as follows. So when you want to write a user story, this is how generally user story will be written. As a system user, action followed by result, right? This is how generally the template we follow. I'm showing you an example first, then I'll write user stories for the remaining functionalities, which I'm about to show you. Now, if you take example one for creating a login page. For example, this is the functionality. Now, if you want to write a user story for this, do remember when you're writing a user story, you always think from the user perspective, right? So this is how it happens. As a system user, okay, I want you to create login credentials so that I can use the system. If you see this, if you can divide this into three different parts, as a system user is the first part, creating login credentials is the second part, using the system is the third part. So as a system user, I want you to create login credentials. So creating login credentials is an action which has to be performed by the development team. Okay. Because this which has to be developed by the development team. Why they have to do? Because using the system is what the result they are expecting. So whenever you are writing a user story, we always write from the user perspective. That is the fundamental thing we should understand. So this is how generally user story is what we write. Now we are going to write user stories for the functionalities which we have already there, right? For example, there are functionalities which I was mentioned here. You can see, for example, if you take denial management have a functionalities like creating an account, creating appeal letters, all that, right? So these are the functionalities for this particular feature. This feature was transferred as a epic here in our this thing. Okay, now if you can see here, the first one, processing of require a process of denial management, right? So denials taken place means in reference to the first epic, what is that we have taken, right? So denial management is we have taken here. So in reference to that, I have written an epic. Now what we have to do for this particular epic, whatever the related and relevant user stories must be updated here. Now, so creating an account is the first functionality. So we need to write an user story like this. You can see here, there is an option called create child issue. Click on that. So there will be three options. Green color option will be used for user story. If user story is so complex, for example, if you want to minimize that user story, you can write down the task. That is point number 2. For example, if it's not a task, for example, you want to write, for example, the user story was developed by the team. and they have identified some bugs and all. So bugs comes into account. So either user story, task followed by the bug. Either one we have to finalize. Now I am selecting user story here. Okay, user story is what I am writing for the first functionality called creating an account. The same thing as I shown you. That's what. As a system user, I want you to create a login page. Why? Because creating login pages and all, creating an account is required, right? So creating an account so that I can log in accordingly, right? So this is how generally the user story one should write. So user story, as a system user, I want you to write. Yeah, you can see here, as a system user, I want you to create login. So creating login account, creating an account for login is what the action to be performed. So for what purpose the result is, so that login accordingly is what the result one should know, right? So this is what generally the user story we have written for the first functionality. Next, creating AP letters. That is the second one. Now, as a user, I want you to create an option for mentioning the AP letters so that I can create those, so that I can use those, right? So that I can use those when the denial process taken place. Okay, when the denial process taken place, right? So these are the two user stories which was written under the first epic. Okay, now second, in reference to the claim management, if you can see here, right? So require a claim process flow is what generally the first one, the second epic was. Now you need to write user stories for this. Creating and processing claims. So as a user, I want you to create an claims processing form so that what is that we can do, so that creating and processing claims, so that I can create and process claims, right? So this is what it is. Now creating, next second one is that dashboard creation, right? That is all comes under that dashboard creation. So as a user, I want you to create a dashboard so that I can use this to view the work which is performing by the team. Okay, this is what one user story is, right? So by the team, right? So this is the second user story. Now the third epic, right? So for example, integration, tracking claims, tracking payments, accessing ERAs. Tracking claims is the next one, right? So this is what it is. This is for the purpose of tracking claims, right? So link for a purpose of integration, right? So this is what it is. So for integration purpose, this is being asked for, right? So integration purpose, this is the third epic we have taken. Tracking claims is what the one, right? So as a user, I want an option to auto-generate claim ID number so that we can track the claims, right? Next, the next one is that tracking payments. As a user, please do remember, user may be anyone. Whoever is using that particular functionality, we call them as users. Okay, please do remember this. So as a user, what is that we require? Tracking payments. As a user, I want you to create a tracking, want you to create a tracking uh, tracking option so that I can track the claims of what I submitted, right? So tracking of claims, person who has submitted will see, right? So in on that context, I have written this. Now, accessing ERAs, right? Electronic health records, right? Now, as a user, I want you to integrate ERA process so that I can access that when I want to view health records. Right? This is what we have written. Now, so for claim scrubber, we are writing for claim scrubber sending claims. Right? So claim scrubber is what the next one. For this, I am writing. As a user, I want a claims submission report so that we can submit the sending claims, right? We can submit the claims. Okay. Next, claim status, right? As a user, I want a tracking option, the same one, because user stories may be the same. If irrespective of the epic, some functionalities will also be the same, right? So the same functionality can also be used here. So that also can be done, right? I want a tracking claim status, right? So claim status equals, right? So I want you to create a tracking option so that I can view claim status, right? I will view claim status. Next, billing, view reports and exporting of data, view reports for billing purpose. As a user, I want view reports. I want you to create a customized option so that I can view reports. I can view reports. Next, exporting of data. As a user, I want an add-on to export the data wherever it needed. Wherever it needed. Now, digital payments. Next one is digital payments. Right? So digital payments is the next one, right? Online bill payments. As a user, I need a link to pay the payments online. Okay. That's done. Now scheduling. Scheduling is the next one. Send reminders, sending reminders. Send reminders. As a user, I want you to create an reminding option, so that reminder option, so that I can set reminders. Okay. Next, next syncing calendar. Okay, syncing calendar. As a user, I want you to create. I want you to create a link to integrate to the calendar to schedule appointments. Appointments. Right. Next, filtering the appointments. As a user, I want to view the appointments based on the doctor, so that I can filter accordingly. Right? Appointments. Next, after appointments, reporting. Right? So generate reports. Generate reports is the next one. As a user, I want you to create an option to generate reports. Next, create a syndromic surveillance system. As a user, I want a surveillance system so that we can enhance our security. We can enhance our security measures based on that, right? So this is what it was, right? 8. Next, an option for option of e-prescribing. Okay. Yeah, e-prescribing, view records. As a user, I want you to create an e-prescribing, right? I want you to create an e-prescribing, so that, right? So that I can view records. Next, charging of capturing of the documents. Right. Creating a repository. As a user, I want you to create an option to create an option to create a repository system. So that I can use it when required. I can use it when required. Next. Yeah, it's done already. Next, an option to manage these via app. As a user, I want you to create an option to manage these apps for further progress. This is done. Okay. Now, next is telehealth, right? So telehealth is what we have taken, right? Telehealth it is. Scheduling virtual visits. This is for telehealth. Okay. Telehealth. As a user, I want you to create an virtual visit, virtual connect, so that I can attend appointment with the doctor. Next. Right. Next, creating customizable templates. As a user, I want you to create an option to customize reports. Customize reports, customize templates, right? So customize templates. So that we can use this when it is needed, right? So this is it. So this is how generally the user stories we have to write for all the epics. Now you can see there are different epics we have created. Followed by this, there are some user stories which was written also. So you can see here all these user stories can be placed in the backlog. You can see here, right? So these are all generally whatever the user stories we have written. So we can see all these in the backlog, right? So this is how generally the user story creations and all everything will be done here accordingly. This is what generally we do it, right? So epics was created, followed by the epics, we have written the user stories also. Okay. And the next session, I am going to explain you about how these user stories has to be connected. For example, if these are the user stories we have taken, so how this complexity will be calculated. For example, if this user story developer has to do, how to do that? Because there are two techniques we follow. Either this user story can be divided into tasks, or else we can give some story points for that. So that I am going to explain in the next session. Okay, thank you.